Welcome to the tutorial. You have access to the raw files that you're going to see me editing in Luminar Neo throughout this video. Let's get right to the gear.
Here we are in Iceland. I thought that I would take a moment to tell you about the gear we're going to be using. I'm pretty minimal when it comes to gear for landscape photography. I only have two lenses with me on this exact trip. One is a 17-28 Tamron, and the other is a 35-150 Tamron. Before you go and try to buy one of these, there is a new lens coming out, or it's out now if you're watching this video, that I didn't have access to, the 20-40 f2.8 Tamron, which I would recommend above this lens. Camera body, Sony A7IV, and then I have a tripod. You don't have to get too fancy with your tripod, you don't gotta spend too much money. It's just a thing that holds your camera up. And then I have NDs, actually variable NDs, which means that they block a variable amount of light depending on which direction you turn them. For both my landscape photography as well as a lot of the gear that we use, we also do video with. So variable NDs, very, very helpful for video, and we have them. So we use them for landscape photography as well. If you are looking at them and they're a little bit too expensive, you can likely get a 10-stop ND, or you can even get the plate filters if you really want to go all in. I would say, at least for myself, I like to keep my kit minimal, and all of this fits easily inside a backpack with no problem. And then I also have a bonus camera as well, film camera. This one here is a Nikon FM3A. You put film in it, and it has an incredible 50mm lens, and I recommend at least having something to capture a little bit of film. I don't know if that's for you. That doesn't have to be for you. Let's go take some pictures. Here we are, ready for our morning of landscape photography. Let's get started then, shall we? With me for gear this morning, I have the Sony A7IV and the Tamron 17-28 f2.8. Hi, Marshall. We're now using the pay station as a main light, and it is blue hour right now, and I don't think we're gonna get much of a sunrise, so we're not gonna get much light. What we will get is a clear view of the mountain, and when you're only in a location for a certain period of time, kind of got to do with the best with whatever you can. And mountaintop is not obstructed by fog, which is great. And the waterfall, it's going to be windy down there, maybe a little bit wet, but we're going to do some great photography. I have an ND on here, but I don't need it because you can use the world to ND right now because it's nice and dark. I will start with a longer exposure of the waterfall. And for waterfall photography, there's no exact right that it has to be 4 seconds in order to be a beautiful image. It's kind of whatever you're feeling. Play around, have some fun. Whatever you think you like, that's the winner. It's still nighttime, so we've brought the LumCube Go to light us. Thanks, LumCube, for sending us a bunch of things and helping us flashlight in a softer way. And I'm gonna set my tripod up at regular human height. You could go for an extreme angle, but it's early and it's not that comfortable. A lot of my photography is based around how comfortable I am. And when you're at full extension, I don't know, you just stand there, you take the pictures. The other thing you don't want to do, or you'll get made fun of on the internet, is never do a full center column extend. It's not very, especially if you're doing a longer exposure, it is not very stable. So I'm gonna start with a 5-second exposure, and I'm actually gonna set a self-timer in here. You can use a trigger, you can use a wireless trigger, a wired trigger. So 2-second self-timer, which means I hit the button, I hit the physical thing, camera has 2 seconds to kind of chill out, and let's see that first photo.
Today we're going to be editing everything in Luminar Neo. Luminar Neo has a few new features since the last time you saw it. Number one, HDR merge. So if you're photographing a very high dynamic range scene where you want to retain all the detail from a bright sky as well as the foreground that maybe is in shadow, it'll blend you a nice balanced image. Next up, focus stacking. If you're photographing a scene where you want the foreground in focus as well as the background in focus, you can now merge up to 100 images to make sure the entire image is nice and crisp. And there are also a few really helpful new AI features as well, including upscale AI, which will enhance your image resolution in a very natural way up to 6 times the size of the original file. Super sharp AI for if you just photographed a scene and you're just a little bit too slow on the shutter speed and you had a little bit of camera shake. Or noiseless AI that if it's a nighttime scene or you just accidentally use too high of an ISO in the photo, it will remove a lot of that digital noise from the image and make it feel a lot more natural. Let's go in to Luminar Neo. You have access to all the raw files you're going to see editing through here. I'm going to break this up where we'll be doing some editing. We'll go back to on location. We'll come back to editing, on location, and everything you're going to be seeing is edited in Luminar Neo. So let's begin. Let's add some photos. Let's add our Iceland edits. Here we go. Raw files from the Sony A7IV, but if you want to make it a little bit more of the resolution of a Sony A7R Mark V, you just drag it right here and you upscale it. Nice and easy. Same goes with the HDR merge that I talked about and focus stacking. So if you're not familiar with Luminar Neo, I'll give you a bit of a demonstration here. They've kind of included everything that I used to do into this enhance slider, which is pretty crazy. We're going to talk about that in a moment. Relight is another incredible tool, as well as the portrait settings down here. So this is outside of the scope of today, but any portrait images that I'm doing kind of as one-off images, or you can even batch process them, I actually go through and I will do retouching in terms of face light, maybe slim face, as well as skin softening, shine removal, skin defects. And you can even do some eye enhancements or mouth enhancements in terms of kind of tinting lips to be a slightly different color, or making your eyes a little bit larger. If somebody was to be squinting in an image, you can open those eyes up a little bit or enhance the eyes overall, eye whitening, that type of thing. That is out of scope of today, but I thought I would mention it because it is something that I use legitimately every day now. Here we go, first image. The joke you're going to see throughout this entire video, you see this little dot of dust here? My sensor, so dirty. You know what you do to fix that? You click the erase button and then you just click remove dust spots. That cleans them all up for you. Holy crap, right? Okay. I'm gonna add them back for a moment. We're gonna come over here to presets. So the presets you're seeing are from the analog film collection, and I like them all. I like K2, I would say, the most generally, as well as this black and white preset, K5. Is very, very, very nice. Come on over here to edit. First thing we're going to do, it's going to be over and over and over again. First thing we're going to do over and over and over again, remove dust spots. Then next, I'm going to come in here into develop, and I'm going to add just a tiny, tiny bit of temperature. Not even really that much. I feel like that's good enough there. And I'm not actually going to do anything else to this image. We'll go through some of the other tabs on other images. For now, we're going to keep it real simple. We're gonna do 50-50 here, or 58-32. You got yourself a pretty nice image. We're at the mercy of what the light was doing that day, and the light, not really a 10 out of 10. You can also go advanced features if you want, and you can replace some skies. So if you just want to bring in that nice sunset, whoop-ha, it's yours now. We're not going to be doing that today, but that is an option. To keep things natural and real, I'm going to come back over here into presets. I'm going to go to K5. And then I'm going to come over here to enhance, and I'm going to add just a tiny bit here, just a tiny bit. Sky enhance to bring in a little bit of the tones. But overall, I am very, very happy with that image. There is kind of a little bit going on. There's a few different elements, and I feel like the black and white really simplifies it. If I was on location here and we got a very beautiful sunrise with all kinds of warm light, I would have gone more in that direction and really warmed it up and brought out those bright greens. But today it was a little bit of a bummer blue hour, and the black and white, I think, is the way to go.
Photographers are the only ones dumb enough to be out here this early in the morning. It's only like 6 of us today. Usually there's, if it was going to be a good sunrise, there'd be 150 photographers all lined up here. Or Northern Lights, 1,000 photographers. Another tip, manual focus this time of day. It's too dark for autofocus, or it works, but it's better and better practice to do manual focus. And usually what I do is I'll use my autofocus. I'll focus on infinity. I'll find a light out in the distance and I'll make sure my camera focuses on it, and then I'll flip it into manual focus. And sometimes I have to switch on the lens, sometimes you have to go to the menu to do it. But I would say that's another very important thing to do, as well as if you're in body stabilization, maybe is adding a little bit, it's trying to do something while you're doing a long exposure. Best practice to turn that off as well when you're doing longer exposures on a tripod. Most cameras these days, they'll know, but it's smart. And that's what landscape photography is about, smartness. And getting gas station hot dogs. It's probably the best part of landscape photography here in Iceland, is the gas station hot dog element, which is always strong with us. If you're gonna see 25 waterfalls, you better get 25 hot dogs. Blue hour is almost complete. There will be no sunrise. There will be really no golden hour. I guess the light will be goldenish. When does golden hour start? Let's talk about an app. This app, it's called Alpenglow, and it tells us right now that the sunrise prediction is poor, but blue hour goes until 7:10. So right now we're technically in golden hour, but it still feels pretty blue. Anyways, Alpenglow, great app for just giving you the basic blue hour, golden hour, sunrise, sunset, last light. the basics that you need for landscape photography. There are apps that go a lot more in-depth into different details, but I find that that's pretty good for most of what I need. Another app that we relied on this morning is called AccuWeather, and it gives you a minute-by-minute kind of forecast that is 80% accurate. And if it says it's going to rain for 19 minutes, it's probably going to rain for somewhere between 15 to 25 minutes. The thing you'll notice at locations like this is that photographers all seem to stack in one spot. So take a walk, even if everyone's got their tripod set up, they look like they officially know what they're doing, they got the gear. Take a little walk and see if there's a composition that you like a little bit better rather than just kind of stacking in there and trying to get the same frame. Also, this white balance is really blue, isn't it? We've located what appears to be a pretty nice boat just a little bit outside of Lagoon here in Iceland. We don't know if it's a photo yet, and I'm thinking about what the best photo could be for this boat. It's kind of in the water. I'm thinking super wide. I think we get nice and close. I might do a long exposure with an ND filter to get a little bit of cloud movement, although the clouds don't appear to be moving. And I think that this image is going to be black and white regardless of how I shoot it. So you can either shoot it in camera black and white so you know exactly what you're getting, it's a little bit more true and pure, or you can just convert it in post. It's up to you. Here we go. You thought that it was B-roll, but now it's A-roll. Using the Peak Design tripod. It's a nice tripod. Any tripod that's sturdy will do. And the Sony A7IV Tamron 17-28, super wide, or middle wide, maybe not super wide. It's quite windy. This is maybe the most obvious spot you go, and it will probably end up being the nicest spot. You have foreground element, which is the beach and the water, subject, and background. If you wanted to get a little bit lower, you could move that horizon line kind of going through the boat. Get lower, you probably couldn't get higher to get it out of the frame, but you can definitely go low. So maybe we'll do that next. We'll get real low and get that black and white boat on beach shot.
All right, back here. Let's edit a boat. First steps. Look at all that sensor dust. First steps, we're either gonna go take K2 here. We're gonna see what that looks like. I like the look of it. It introduces grain here. This is an intentional thing. It's an analog film simulation. And you might like that, you might not like that. You can choose. There's lots of other presets. There's many. You can go over here to the marketplace. You can get more presets if you want. I enjoy the look of film. There'll also be a film photography road trip episode coming from this trip of Iceland as well. So don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you're interested in that. Then we're gonna come over here. We're gonna use my favorite feature. There's also a remove power lines feature. So if there are power lines in the background, you're like, I love this composition, but the power lines are in everything, that is going to help you out a lot. I'm going to remove my sensor dust rather than cleaning my sensor. Just do it, fix it in post, right? No, actually clean your sensor. I am a wedding photographer, so I shoot everything very wide open. And we were doing a wedding photography workshop in Iceland, and I was shooting everything nice and wide open, and I didn't realize it. And by the time that I realized it, we were in the middle of nowhere, and I didn't really want to just be cleaning my sensor with whatever tools I had at hand. So I left it knowing that this was going to do a great job of it. So down here, I'm going to add a little accent, a little sky enhancer. That looks nice. So it also look incredible as a black and white scene, or if you're interested in kind of balancing this out, so it's, as you can see, it's a little dark here. There's a number of different ways that you can fix that, but by changing the brightness near, maybe to something kind of halfway there, 48, it's going to kind of fade that in nicely. So it feels more similar. It doesn't feel like you went in and you edited anything. And then if you feel like the image maybe overall is too dark and you want to brighten that up a little bit, this slider here will really help you out. And to unlock something else for you as a tool that if you decide that this is what the image needs, you can do it. Golden hour slider. You could have used this in the last image actually to make our blue hour maybe a little bit more golden, as well as enhance the green. So as you can see when I move the green slider here, You really have good control over these greens. So if you're shooting a landscape scene like we're going to see with a lot of green in it, it's going to do some incredible things for your image. But this golden hour slider just makes things feel, I don't know, really, really nice. So I'm happy with this image. We're going to call it done right now. We're going to head back to Iceland.
Goodbye, boat. See you next time. Here we go. Commencing B-roll sequence. This is great. Really fantastic B-roll. Hello? I didn't see you there. There are a few different things you could do with this scene. You could go kind of more up to eye level and kind of capture something more true to what you're seeing. Or you can get really low. If you are really low, be cautious of waves. You get some pretty wild rogue waves in here. I'm gonna start here at 35, 10 seconds, f7.1, and we're gonna see how that looks first and then make decisions from there. I'm guessing I'm gonna go into about 50 for the next photo, get a little bit closer, and I also suspect that this scene, it's already very monochromatic, so I do suspect that this is gonna end up being a black and white photo as well.
Coming back into Luminar Neo, the sensor dust is still there, but it will be gone very easily. And this image here, it's black and white. It feels like a black and white image already. It's very almost monochromatic. So I'm going to accentuate that by actually coming in here and using my favorite K5 preset. Then we're gonna come over here to edit. We're going to get rid of the sensor dust. I'm gonna bring a little bit more detail back into these rocks. So to add a little bit of detail back to this rock here, there's a few different ways you could do it. You come down here to dodge and burn. You can dodge and burn it. You can go up here into develop and down into shadows, and you can drag the shadows up a little bit, or you can just let Luminar Neo do a bunch of it, and you can slide this accent slider up, maybe a little bit of sky enhancer too. There we go. That got it almost exactly what I wanted it to be. I'm going to add a little bit of highlight here, maybe something like that. Another thing you can do is you can come over here into atmosphere, and if you're interested in adding a little bit more, we're gonna add some haze to the foreground here. You can kind of dial that up as much as you want, make things a little bit more dramatic. What it also does, it also kind of lightens the rock. So that's another way to go about kind of doing the same thing. And I don't know, I like that. I don't feel like I've really photoshopped the scene too heavy. It still is natural-ish to what it began as. And I'm gonna call that a finished image. Now we're gonna go back to Iceland. And that's landscape photography for fun and profit. We are absolutely in the splash zone here. You'd pay extra money for these tickets at Cirque du Soleil. We're now framing out the key element of the beach, the Sphinx. It's gone. And I felt it was attracting too much attention. I wanted it to be more simple. Don't look at a thing, just do less. Pop up. So we're gonna come over here, we're going to load up K3 preset. This would also look great in black and white. I'll show you what that looks like quickly. Very nice in black and white. K3 also complements the scene quite nicely. Gonna come over here to edit. First up, remove those dust spots. Next up, give it a little accent under enhance. I think that looks really nice. I may come down here and add a little bit of green. I don't know if it's distracting. I feel like maybe around there is kind of nice. A little more green to the scene. Maybe we'll dial it back. Can add a little bit of golden hour, 25% golden hour. Overall, I'm happy with this image. Would have been great in black and white. Works in color as well. Now back to Iceland. It's gonna end up being the nicest photo. We actually have some sky, some blue, some interest, rather than just nothing like we've had all day. Yes, I think that looks quite nice. This image will for sure make you $100,000. At minimum. Made some friends, took some pictures. What a great day. Let's go to B-roll land. B-roll land is lovely. I love it here in B-roll land. It's great. Now I'm the puddlegram. Back to B-roll. You know what they say, leave only trash, not footprints. So make sure you leave trash to leave in nature, but take your footprints with you.
we're at the Blue Lagoon Hotel, and there's a little mound, a little tuft of this in the center of the water. It's a very nice contrast between the blue water and the green. There's a little pathway though. It's not true landscape photography, but I think it'll make a nice photo. I've preset everything, so fortunately with mirrorless, you just, whatever you make your settings, you got live view of it. So I'm doing a 10-second exposure, f14, and I have my 2 to 5 stop ND set to 5 stops. So we're gonna go out, we're gonna put it down, hit the button, and then go. And also we're doing this over breakfast, so no hotel guests are in it. Also the breakfast here is amazing. Oh yeah, that's some good B-roll. Here we are at the Blue Lagoon, or in Icelandic, as they say, the Lagoon. No one's out here, which is nice. I think my spot is right here. Tripod's gonna go down. Super wide or mid-wide angle lens, 17. That looks darn nice. We're gonna set that 2-second timer and maybe hop out of manual focus. Here we go. Hopefully this doesn't fall over like earlier. It's not windy. I blame the wind. What we're trying to do with the long exposure here is basically smooth out all the water. As you can see, there's a current, or maybe it's the way it circulates here, but it makes it for not the prettiest photo. If you were to say do something like a 30-second exposure, maybe at f22, all of a sudden, the ripples just become a nice, soft surface. All the ripples disappear. We've discovered a nice little scene off behind us, the lighthouse, and a little small house. So the house is kind of that corner framing element, rule of third style. The downside is that I have a 150, which is usually fine for most general things. But today I kind of feel like I need a little bit more. I feel like I need a 300 to get this shot. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna take the photo at 150. We're gonna punch into APS-C mode within our camera to frame it how I want. I use this a lot at wedding days, portrait shoots, when I want to get a little bit closer, especially for photojournalism. And I'm able to, I don't know, basically get what I want in camera rather than cropping it in post-production. Very easily crop it. If you have the time, maybe by all means. As an efficiency thing, when it comes to weddings, I've just gotten in the habit of shooting it how I want it in camera. So no ND filter for this, just take the picture. It's so windy.
Coming into a scene like this, I'm going to add the K3 preset. We're going to come over here. No sensor dust to erase this time. Wow, I shot it somewhat correctly. You can tell that there's not a whole lot of contrast in the scene because I zoomed in and there was a bit of haze. So I'm going to add a little bit of accent and a little bit of sky enhancer. We're going to see what that looks like. I'm going to come in here and I'm actually going to crop the foreground out there. Almost make it a perfect rule of thirds. Not quite, but you can almost put this kind of in the rule of thirds as well as this. And I'm going to leave it like that. I am also going to come in here and I'm going to erase this person and whatever's going on here too. Now they're gone. I guess while we're doing it, we're getting rid of all people. Erase them as well. And I mentioned that the scene doesn't really have as much contrast as I want it to have, so I'm going to come down here into super contrast. I'm going to add a little bit of highlights, maybe 14, a little bit of midtones, and then I'm going to come up here into landscape, and I'm going to dehaze a little bit because there is a bit of zooming going on, a little bit of natural haze in the environment. And I'm going to bring golden hour up. You can make it look, now looks like a painting. It's a little too saturated now. It looks nice though. The color palette is nice, but a little too saturated. I'm going to leave it somewhere about there. I feel like that feels a little bit more natural to me, and I am happy with that image. We've discovered something wonderful and beautiful. We are rushing to make sure the sun does not go away. Here we go. Oh yeah, that looks nice. All right, so we have here a great leading line through the mountains, some good light on the mountains out there. Even though it's middle of the day, it's directional enough. If it was straight down
It might not be the best light, but this time of year, the sun is always at a little bit of an angle. So you got some shadows in there. The road nicely going up with some rain on it, which also means that it's gonna be a little bit more contrasty. So get out and shoot after it rains because the road will be a lot darker and contrast better with the environment. Here we are at the Black Sand Beach. Let me show you a thing. Let's screw this on the front here. Here we go. Oh, screwed it up. So you think it's easy to do screw-on filters, but you'd be mistaken because it's actually quite challenging. It's usually the hardest part of my day, screwing on the VND, but actually what's going on here? There we go. That feels more secure. Now we have a 6 to 9 stop ND filter. This is a mist filter as well, which adds a layer of mist. It's also been dropped on its face, which adds an additional small layer of mist. Those kind of go with what we're trying to do today. Make a misty haunted scene. Got my VND set to 9 stops, and we're gonna go down to, what are you feeling? 4 seconds? 4 seconds at f5.6. We gotta do more. Should we do 30 seconds? Let's do 30 seconds. Let's get crazy. You having a nice time, Marshall? Marshall's having a nice time. All right, 30 seconds almost up. Oh, it looks good.
Next up, you already know I'm going black and white with this one. Boom, black and white. Over here, step 2, always step number 2 for Taylor. Remove dust spots, cleaned it up perfectly. I'm going to maybe rotate. I think my tripod was on the beach, so it was a little sideways, I suppose. And an image like that looks really nice. If you want to go up here, you definitely can enhance things, or you could relight the foreground scene here so you get a little bit more detail in the black sand beach. You can also do the opposite, where if the background you feel is too bright, you can actually bring that down. Honestly, that makes it kind of an interesting image. I'm gonna leave it around there. That was a happy surprise. I am very, very happy with that photo. If you wanted to add a little bit more fog, or you want to add some haze, go ahead, dial that up, make your life more dramatic, add some layered fog. There you go. Spooky, spooky. Halloween. Back to Iceland.
Now that we got the shot that we came here for, it's important to go for a little bit of a walk around, see some other details, get those supporting images. One could be the basalt columns right here, or there's a pretty cool rock formation around the corner. So I think we're gonna go do that, get a few photos of that, and then be on our way. Very calm today though. The water, not so much. Don't come here to swim. That would be a bad idea. Now, a situation where you would not want a longer shutter speed is if you want to capture the craziness of these waves. So I'm going to shoot a few frames at 150 millimeters and get the just the explosion of this crazy wave. Oh yeah.
All right, coming over here, this is a bit more of an experimental style image. And what that means is I don't really know. I'm going to guess K3, K2, or again, the black and white are going to do a great job of the color palette here. I'm going to add a little bit of structure here because I really want to accentuate the detail here. There are obviously other ways to do that. This is the way that I chose. I'm going to try a little relight too. I don't know how it will interpret this, but I might even dial it down a little bit, maybe -5. And that's starting to look really, really nice. I think I am quite happy with the way that this image came together. This is one of my favorites from the entire trip, actually. Let's go back to Iceland.
That's nice. Photos of waves. See you next scene. Is this B-roll? Or is this A-roll? What we have here is a reflection. Reflections are great for photography. They balance the scene. They kind of frame the scene a lot of the time. They're just very interesting. We're gonna set up here, and I think that a 35 is gonna be the correct tool. We're gonna find out together. So the bad news is there's people in the scene. The good news maybe is that there's people in the scene. interesting scene out there. This is nice. Very clean reflections, no movement in the water. And I do my best to kind of isolate elements and find the elements that have less fog on them, because the mountains out there look very, very nice, but they're very foggy. And they just kind of look like little outlines, which might look cool. Maybe black and white, we'll see. But the black sand beach into this, I wish there was one more element somewhere in here to use, but that's okay. Looks very nice. Very calm times out here this morning. 1.5 kilometers. Might set up a tripod for one or two longer exposures here. The photograph without longer exposure does look nice. I'm gonna frame up these three rocks out here. These three elements together. They're always nice. A little misty. Let's do a 10-second exposure. I'm gonna set my timer. Let's see what that looks like. It'll give us a good starting point. This rock that's nice and close also might be a nice little vertical image. It's gonna be a little too misty today for this. Here we go. Some more reflections. Looks nice. Let's continue on. So say you've just arrived at a waterfall, and a busload of, actually several busloads of tourists have also arrived here. And you want a photo of the waterfall with no tourists, I'm gonna show you a trick. Let's go. This is the one trick that waterfall photographers don't want you to know, is that you can just hide everyone that's at the waterfall in the grass if you get low enough over here. And then you don't need any fancy tricks to make people disappear. You don't gotta wake up early. You're just hiding everyone in the grass. Let's see. Beautiful.
All right, into our last image that we're going to be doing editing on. Again, you have access to all the images that you've seen me editing. If you want, you can load them into your own Luminar Neo and you can edit along. And I'm going to begin, we're going to call it K3. That looks nice. Came into today, I was like, K2 is my preset. It still looks real nice there. Maybe K2 is the preset for this one. We're going to accentuate the golden hour a little bit. We're going to stick with K2. Thanks for being with me while I rethink everything I know about photography. We're gonna come down here and I'm actually gonna do kind of a vignette into the scene. So I'm gonna bring down the brightness near us so that it more frames the subject, which is the waterfall there. And then unless I'm going crazy, this was shot at a higher f-stop. I don't see any dust spots. What happened there? Iceland. Magic. Stolen. My dust spots remain in Iceland. Another thing I'm gonna do is I'm going to erase some of the people around here. So maybe you. No tourists. Maybe we'll remove this guy up here too. Nobody needs an observation platform. You can even get crazy and remove, maybe we'll remove this this line here. You know what? We could remove all this if we wanted. I'm gonna leave it there. That'll be our little secret that I left this line there. And here we are. I would consider that to be a pretty done image, in my opinion. You can add some things if you want. Yep, that looks nice. Sky enhancer. There unfortunately is no sky. Again, come in here, add your own sky if you want. I'm going to come down into landscape, and as I mentioned, I'm going to add a little bit of golden hour. Not too much though, somewhere around there. Maybe a little bit more saturation to the greens. If you go too much, it's a little too acidic in this environment. Somewhere around there, I'm pretty happy with. This image would also be very, very nice in black and white. If you ever wanted to see what a black and white image is going to look like, come down here. convert to black and white. And if you like it, then head on over back to one of your presets and select the preset that you like the most for black and white. I would recommend finding a few presets that you like and editing within those. Otherwise, your colors will kind of be all over the place. If you want to create a cohesive body of work, I think it's important to just pick a few. I know it's hard because they're all really good. And you watch a new video on the internet, you're like, that's the one I'm going to use. And then you watch another video and you're like, but that one's great too. And how do I decide? And honestly, you decide just by picking one and sticking with it. That's all there is to it. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. If you have enjoyed it, please consider subscribing as well as liking this video. And head on over to the link in the description below for the current offer for Luminar Neo if you're interested in picking up this software.
There it is. Landscape photography in Iceland. Many hot dogs consumed. Hope you enjoyed. Comment below if you have any questions. And now, our last Icelandic hot dog. It's a very orange bus. This was the least scenic of all the locations.